Welcome to the Twist News. I'm Erika Gray.
Good evening. I'm Don Pravda, and welcome.
Tonight we're going to talk about our favorite president, Joe Biden. Actually, tonight we're going to talk about the United States war profiteering.
Well, let's talk. So why are we in the Ukraine?
Well, let's look at the fact that since the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the United States has been earning 4 times the amount it normally earns selling LNG gas to Europe. But in addition to that, here we, of course, have our friends and allies. Always, you'll hear Biden and other presidents, by the way, touting about our friends and allies. Well, I think we're the only ones that stab our friends and allies in the back. But besides stabbing them in the back, we also overestimate the friendship. We'll call people friends who can't stand us, call people friends who have laws that hurt us, and all of that just gets ignored and pushed underneath the carpet because in U.S. foreign policy, Don, we throw around the term friend and allies when it suits our president and his policy. So let's take a quick look at the Inflation Reduction Act, a real stab to the nations of the world.
That's right. Well, I must also say, where did this money come from? I'm very curious.
Oh, wait, the $369 billion in subsidies? Basically, he promises subsidies to countries that make the products in the United States. He's trying to lure companies from other countries that are involved in green technologies to come to the United States and make products, as well as incentives for Americans to buy products that are made in America in these areas. So isn't it a no-brainer when you're signed up with agreements with the nations of the world and you're all on a green agenda to boost your economy, but you have friends and allies, do you then hurt their companies by giving $369 billion in subsidies to try to lure their best companies to the United States, or by having your people buy American? I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Don?
Well, we want our people to buy American products by any standard, and may we. In fact, I believe strongly in buying local products. That enhances communities. That makes a big impact. If citizens go to local markets, local businesses. Likewise, what is happening is that I think we're losing the soul of our country to this. I can't even understand where this money comes from, what it's doing to the economy, how much will really come back on the positive cash flow.
But in this particular act, you have the nations of the world that are outraged. French President Emmanuel Macron, apparently the French have sought 9 different changes, and they're now fighting back. And they're talking about a trade war now between the European Union and the U.S. We're in a day and age of a globalized economy, even though globalization has eroded, but we still have a globalized economy. And when a country now makes a law that poo-poos the companies in other countries and actually tries to draw them, as well as poo-pooing them to get, the Americans or to get their country to buy. So yes, I agree with you that we should support local businesses. I think we should support American companies, but at the same time, when you, as a president, put this into law, they're calling it war profiteering, and they're right. You can't just, and in the same vein, Europe is guilty too. They've got they're upset, but their Battery Act did the same thing. It was protectionist, and that's another thing. Where was the U.S. media on their Battery Act and some of the proposals that they're coming out with? their COVID recovery. They have what's called own resources, where they wanted to fine or tax U.S. tech companies. And, where was the United States with some of this? And so while Europe is upset, well, we need to also be calling them out with some of their policy that hurts our companies, as well as their CO2 tax. Same thing.
Yes, it is the same thing. In speaking to the audience, why don't you let us know what the Inflation Reduction Act will mean to you? Is it a good bill that was passed or a negative one? And maybe you could add, does America have the money to spend that can reduce the results that will work? We're in debt, miserable debt, and now we're in spiraling debt. Isn't it possible, Erika, that the dollar can crash in the near future?
Oh, yes.
All this spending and on money we don't have, and then you have to keep borrowing on top of all these ruination policies. It's really a sad story.
I like that, Don. Ruination policies.
Yes.
That's a really good term for U.S. policy.
Sure.
And you're right. And the act also has all kinds of spending. I'm just focusing on the part that's angering our allies. But also, we need to be on top of our game with laws that were coming out of Brussels, or that are coming out of Brussels, and proposals that we need to be upset about, but we're not. They've got carte blanche because our State Department doesn't pay attention to anything. Our media doesn't pay attention to anything. I mean, I've listened to the Europeans, and I've been absolutely shocked of some of the things that are coming out of Brussels that are just absolutely ignored. And so in one sense, while we are war profiteering, and this is how we treat our friends, I don't think they're also coming out with laws that are very friendly to the United States either. But they're upset about our Inflation Reduction Act. We need to really be calling them out. But you know what, Don? We're going to be calling it out on this channel. Maybe the State Department misses it. Maybe the other media misses it.
That's right.
But we're going to be holding these powers accountable with their decisions that the media doesn't report on.
Well said. Outstanding.
Awesome. I guess that's it for tonight's show. I really do enjoy talking about our president and his abysmal policy that just keeps ruining the United States, just keeps declining us. And this is one of them. And like you said, Don, because of it adds to the runaway spending, but at the same time, it also infuriates our allies. And he's doing a really good job at that. We have to commend him. We have to commend him for being a abysmal president.
A decent man, not the president we need at this time in history.
No, I think we need someone who pays real attention. And I think that's the problem, is he doesn't. And neither does the State Department.
And maybe he could improve some of his advisors or make a change. And we are on the midterm, right, of his presidency. And let's hope America succeeds. We don't want it to fail. We want it to flourish.
Well, the other final piece of his policy, too, when you talk about it succeeding and growing, is the fact that we also have a very ruthless policy that, if China seems to start to go ahead in industry, we want to sanction and crush. And we do that with Russia, with Russian gas, sanction, crush. I mean, that seems to be our policy when a nation does seem to do well. But I don't know what they're doing with Europe, because Europe is really becoming pretty powerful until it's boomerang sanctions, and it shot itself in the foot. So what he's doing with Europe is just upsetting them more, and they're going to come out with more policy instead of calling them out on their policy, which he should be doing.
So pay attention to us.
Yes, pay attention to us.
Watch the twist.
That's right. And be sure to subscribe to our channel And also check out our Amazon store for products that we handpick. And we will
Wonderful.
be adding, if you have any suggestions for products, we would like to know. Put it in the comments below. Anyway, stay tuned until the next broadcast.